Let's go.
Well, thank you for doing this.
Well, thank you for having me.
Now, maybe we should begin by you telling us about your very unique bookshop in Montreal.
Thank you. Yes. Long story short, because I guess it all started in my teenage years when I was so interested in music, and music was my life, as it is for a lot of teenagers. So I always loved music. My first job was working in a record store when I was 17, 18 in the Ottawa area, actually, in the Elmer, Gatineau, called now Quebec. So independent record store, and would just love the vibe of being there, opening the shop, putting on music, talking with customers. And always said it's the best job I ever had. But when you're 17, 18, you have higher expectations, maybe from your parents and from yourself. So did all these other things and had really great jobs and really interesting jobs. Some paid really well and all that, but never quite satisfied. And as I got older, I was really interested afterwards in bookstores. So every time I travel or every city I'd live in and all that, I am what you can call a bookworm. So I always loved bookstores. So one thing led to the other, and then one thing led to a certain pandemic in a couple of years ago, where I lost my previous business. I had a bed and breakfast for 12 years here in Montreal, and it kind of stopped, as you know, tourism and all that. So, and my wife said, "Listen, you've always dreamt of having a bookstore. It's why don't you take the time that you have now to kind of look into the business model and see what you can do?" And so I said, "Well, sounds like a good idea." So at first it was a bookstore. I'll be quite honest with you, John. Before opening here, I had read a couple of books on music. To be honest with you, I'm really interested in everything, and I think that's the probably the most important quality of a bookstore owner is being curious about all different things. So it could have been anything else in terms of a bookstore, but then I thought, listen, I've always loved music. It's always been, always present in my life. And I remembered the record store when I was younger, and I said, bookstore dedicated to music. I think it sounds like a good idea. So that's where it started.
And you sell new and used books, and you also sell them French and English.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, at the moment, it's probably 60% new or even 70% new and 30% used. And I think it's about the same percentage in terms of English and French, whereas I have more English books for different reasons. Well, from what I've seen since I've been open now, it's been 4.5 years. My customers, especially in Montreal, they speak both languages and can read both languages and all that, and they like to read in the language of the subject or of the artist. I always give the example on myself. I read a book on Jeff Emmerich book here, there, and everywhere. I think, yeah, it's about the making of different albums, and I read it in French because somebody had given it to me, and it was excellent book, very, very good book, but it would bug me so much to hear Paul McCartney and John Lennon talking in French. It doesn't work. So yeah. So and also it's sad thing, but French books are much more expensive also. So if the customer has the chance to read it for half the price, and it's honestly half the price, then they'll read it in English.
Is there a book that is always in demand?
There's two that come to mind. I brought them out. How Music Works, David Byrne. This has been really, it's considered by many as the best book written about music. It covers the whole scope of music, being writing, being producing, being touring, being working as a solo artist in a group and all that. So it covers everything. And at the same time, it's somewhat of a biography on David Byrne. So it's super interesting. And the other one would be, do I have it here? It would be, I don't think I have it here. It would be Just Kids.
Okay.
Patti Smith's Just
Smith.
Kids. Yeah, that one I sell at least one a week, and since I've been open, there's other books that have sold like really well in a short period of time and all that because they're the book of the flavor of the month kind of thing. But those two books are the ones that I always have to have in stock for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. The Patti Smith, it's been around for a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, but she's an icon, and with the women especially, they really like to read Patti Smith, and also that period, New York, early '70s. It's a magical period for music.
Can you think of a book that every musician should read?
I think I'd go back to How Music Works from David Byrne. That would be the one. If not, I thought about that question, and there's so many different books for different people, and that's what's great about music books. There's a take home message on lots of them for musicians. So it really depends on who you are. Like this is one of my little favorites. Your band sucks, and it's not very well known, this book, but I absolutely loved it. It's a guy in a band who almost made it, and so they had a contract during like the Nirvana period where everybody would be signed as long as you could play three chords. And a book like that where it talks about resilience, where it talks about being in a band with band members that have other agendas, so that's very good. Kim Gordon, Girl in a Band, is very good. I really like the 33 and 1/3 series. These sell really well also. For those who don't know, this is kind of like a deep dive into one album. So it's really fun also because it talks about the whole making of the album. So that's super interesting. So yeah, there's tons, as you can tell.
Do you have a favorite book?
Yeah, my favorite book, I think, would be this one here. This is the hardcover album. The paperback I don't have in stock at the moment. There's some on the way. It's one of the books that sells really well. Nick Cave sells really well. This book, it's probably one of the, I don't like saying the best books I've read, but one that touched me so much. I remember I would read like 3 or 4 pages before going to bed and just lay it down. It was like very spiritual, very touching, because it talks about the loss of his first son, and it was done during the pandemic. So it's like the conversation is with a friend, so it's not like linear, and it's not stuck in like one time period. It's like almost like, I think it's 9 or 10 months, and it's a conversation. So often Nick Cave will, like the next chapter, he'll go like, you remember what I told you about like last month? Well, I thought about it, and dot dot dot, and that's how do you say when you lose somebody? I have the word in French, but um, grieving. It's grieving is it takes time, and it's a long process and all that. So it's hard to write a book on grieving and just stick it in one moment. So that's what's great about that book, and it's like you're like witnessing two friends talking. So that's really the book that's closest to my heart. Then the other book that I've really been selling and pushing because it for me is the best music biography written, period. It's Viv Albertine. She's in a band called the Slits. Uh, Full disclosure, I wasn't even aware of this band. And why wasn't I aware? Not that I'm saying that I'm better than everybody out there in terms of music, but it's just that because how history works. We kind of erased female musicians and all that. So she was basically in a female band. There was a drummer who was a guy, but they were there at the same time as the Sex Pistols and the Clash. She was in a band with Sid Vicious called the Flowers of Romance before the Sex Pistols. So she's not just like hanger around or a groupie or anything like that. She was a musician. She was, so when they were touring, and again, it's the period of the birth of punk in the UK. The singer was 14 years old, just unimaginable. Nina Sherry was in the band for a while. So, and it's also a book, and that's what I like about music books. It's about music, but it's also about social history in the sense that, like, she's 25, her music career is over, she didn't make any money. It was just like fun for a while and all that. So she decides to do what women at 25 did in 1980, is get married and have children and stay at home and all that. So she does that. And so the second part of the book is all about that period in her life. And she's unhappy and she has health problems and all that. And then at 40 or 50, I don't quite remember, she decides, like, this is not the life I wanted. I wanted to do music. So she goes back into pubs and outside of London. She's not known. The Slits are not really that known. It's not as if you decide to come back and all the doors are open. So and then she kind of came back, and then Kurt Cobain helped also to put the Slits back on the map because he named them one of his favorite bands and all that. So really, really, really a great book. It's for me, it's the best book on music. And even the New York Times says best memoirs of the past 50 years. That was 2019, not best music memoirs, best memoirs, period, New York Times. So I went to see the list and all this. So when you're noted as the best memoir by New York Times, like what can I say?
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, definitely. But it's so well written. And if I could add something, another book, when I first opened, people would say, oh, Kim Gordon, Girl in the Band and all that, which is this one here, which I sell very well. Also, Kim Gordon is a little bit like Patti Smith, also very iconic. But the difference between the Kim Gordon book and the Viv Albertine book is, as I like to say, you can tell that Viv Albertine sat down, wrote the book for like months. You can tell she poured her blood and tears into that book, whereas this one, no. In my opinion, some of these books, and they're great reads, they're fun to read and all that. I'm not saying that they're not as good as, that's what I'm saying. They're not as good as Viv Albertine. Why? My opinion is that these books, the publishers say, listen, send me your 50 best stories, and we'll put them chronologically. We'll put an intro where we talk about where you grew up and your family and all that, and that'll be your book. It makes for a good read. It's fun and all that, but it doesn't have the same energy, the same feeling to it. Like Dave Grohl book, Storyteller, is a little bit like that also. They're great reads. I really enjoyed those books, but they don't have the same depth. Let's call it like that, the same depth as Viv Albertine, the Slits, for example.
Are there any new books coming out that we should be looking out for?
Well, one that I'm very excited about is David Byrne, actually. He's putting out a new book. I think the title is called Stealing Beauties, if I'm not mistaken. So the general idea from what I got is he tries to explain, why do certain ideas take a certain time to, I don't know if that's the right term, to get to fruition, so I'm really looking forward to see what his take on that is. But Dave Byrne's a very important thinker and all that, so I think it'll be very interesting, and that's in October. So that one I'm really looking forward to. And another one that came out in the UK, but will only come out here in January, I believe, is it's the history of shoegaze, and it's written by Simon Reynolds, who's got quite a few of people that know music books know Simon Reynolds. He wrote a lot of books. He wrote one on post-punk. He's very detailed. So and shoegaze, there's not that many book written on shoegaze, so a lot of people are really waiting for that one. I think it's called Deep in a Dream, I believe. I'm not sure.
If I went out and bought a book today, what should I buy?
um, there's so many books, John. That's the best thing is either going on the website to see what I have, and then it really depends on, of course, on what you like. But I just look around, and every time that I finish a book, I'm like, what am I going to read next? What have I been reading lately? I think I took one just the other day, which I really enjoyed. I can show you just quickly if you want. This is one I haven't read yet, but I really want to get into is Alice Coltrane, Cosmic Music.
Yeah.
This is the Melissa Oftermauer book, which I really, really enjoyed. And it's most of it happens in Montreal, and it's such a Cinderella story. And contrary to most of the books at that time period, it's a feel-good books, whereas others there's so much heroin and drugs and death and all that. That this one at least it's a feel-good book. One that I really, really also kind of push, but in a good way, is the Sinead O'Connor book. It's she wrote it, so it's autobiography, and I really was a fan of Sinead O'Connor. So and that's what I like also about music books. We forget a lot of the stuff, and then you kind of go back to the book, and you also get the backstory. So the whole Saturday Night Live thing, and so she really put her everything like for her values, so which I really, really respect. One I like is Craig Digger, and as you can tell, there's little post-its. That's one thing I do here at the bookstore. I put little post-its on my books, so I have a little comment here. You can tell this book I really, really enjoyed. It's only like $16, but it's fun because it's this guy who did all these, he did it all. Like he had a record, well, he was in a band when he was 16, 17, 18, and so on, in a punk band. And then he had a record store, worked in a record store, bought a record store, started a label, touring. So he did it all, and it's fun. It's all short stories. And if I can finish with Rob Sheffield, Loves a Mixtape. That's also one of the books that sells regularly, like Just Kids and How Music Works. Rob Sheffield wrote for the Rolling Stones for forever, still does. And he has really a special way of writing. He's more into, in French, we call it autofiction, so self-fiction. I don't know. He talks about himself, his relationship to music, and so it's he has. There's one written on the Beatles. A certain customer who's a journalist here in Montreal said that's the best book written on the Beatles. But he just talks about his relationship to the Beatles. So the first time he heard the Beatles, or sitting in his room and listening, and he makes all these links between songs. So Rob Sheffield he's up there for sure. Yeah.
You also have children's books.
Yeah. A small section. I can grab just a couple. This is in French. It's Paco et le Jazz, and it's a little stories where you press and you can hear music. So these are fun. Do we hear it? I don't know if you can hear it.
Yeah, very cool.
So that's pretty fun. And there's Taylor Swift also. So these there's the little biographies, Little People, Big Dreams. This is a series where they have others also, like of science or sports or writing and all that. So I have all the music books. There's about a dozen maybe. So Bob Dylan, Prince, Leonard Cohen. Of course, they leave out some parts of their lives, but they're fun also. So yeah, I have some music books for kids also. Yeah.
You do sell vinyl, limited maybe?
Yeah, I just have a small section of vinyl. Actually, as I said, I've been open for 4.5 years, and the first 3.5 years, basically not a day would go by without somebody walking in thinking I was selling vinyl, and because they had found this new place that nobody knows about that sells vinyls, and maybe the guy doesn't know, like prices of vinyls or whatever.
Okay.
So for 3 years, I was like, no, I only sell books on music. So, and I was in my mind, I was like, no, I'm a bookstore, I'm a bookstore, I'm a bookstore. And there's other great vinyl shops, and they've been super supportive of my bookstore also. So I didn't want to, interfere or step on their toes. It's a hard business and all that. So, but at one point, John, it was either I sell a little bit of vinyl or I close shop. It was the first couple of years are really hard when you start a business. So I was like, okay, I got to have this little revenue stream. So now I only have like 5 bins of vinyl, and it gives me just a little plus that doesn't sort that I can continue selling books. So it was a compromise. And then at the same time, I thought it was kind of romantic in a way, because I was doing like full circle, going back to my first job, which was working in a record store, as I said. So that was pretty cool in a way. I was like, oh well, maybe this is what I should be doing actually, like not only selling vinyl, but selling vinyl is kind of maybe it's life that kind of comes around. It's been fun selling vinyls, though. I must say, it brings another crowd and all that. And lately, I've been starting to do events with records, so listening events. We did the Tom York, the Eraser event, which was super fun. That was my first one. I have this nice sound system, vintage, super fun, and so it gave me the motivation to do more. And I have some stuff coming up in October and November, which. I can't say right now because it's just confirmed yesterday, but I'm gonna wait a little bit. But it's regarding like mythical albums in Quebec, and the artist will be here to present the albums. So the artist and the sound engineer will be here to present the album. So that'll be super cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
And also, I was telling you about the 33 and 1/3. They're actually putting out this series in with Quebec albums. Yeah, and it is announced was a little bit played a part in it because 133 and 1/3 did a post to say, okay, we're accepting new somebody, if you want to write for 33 and 1/3, you can send your request. I don't know how you say it. Call for papers, let's say. And I said, well, why don't we do one Québécois, and it just kind of caught fire on Instagram and all that. And there's a publishing house here in Quebec who says, listen, we're super interested, and so they'll be doing it. So in October, there's going to be 3 books coming out, and one of them is Leptade de Harmonium, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll be doing sessions here around those books also. Oh, I have a customer, John. I'm just gonna let him in.
Okay.
There you go.
There you go. Well, I guess we better wind this up. Well, thank you very much, Jean, again for doing this.
Well, thank you for having me, and looking forward to more contributions.
Have a good day, and thank you again.
Okay, we'll talk soon.